Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learned over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And with Halloween coming up, I thought this was a good time to take you through some of the weirdest plants in my collection. Not specifically rare plants, but just ones that are slightly bizarre that you might not have seen before. So yes, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So there were actually quite a lot of plants that I felt like I could have included in this video, but I have condensed it down into my top 10 favourite weird plants, as always in no particular order. But the first one is one that I usually have hanging behind me in most of my videos, and I get quite a lot of questions about it. It's very bizarre. This is a Epipremnum Skeleton Key, and it's a hanging cactus, and it's probably not what you would think of when you hear the word cactus. Obviously, it's got a very unusual growth structure to it. It's very, very long, but it's also got this kind of weird upward growth. And it's also a jungle cactus as opposed to a desert cactus, meaning that it's fantastic if you've got lots of tropical plants and you need to keep the humidity fairly high. This one does really, really well in higher humidity levels. It can learn to adjust to lower humidity levels as well over time, but I try to keep the humidity high, so this one is absolutely perfect. It's loving life in this room. It's also an epiphytic cactus, meaning that in nature it would naturally grow off another plant. It would kind of grow on the side of a tree or something like that and absorb a lot of its nutrients that way, but also, as well as that, get a lot of its nutrients from the air. So again, this is why if you are able to keep the humidity levels fairly high for it, it'll be super, super happy. Mine actually has never flowered for me, but it is also capable of producing beautiful pink and white flowers. I've seen pictures of them and they look absolutely stunning. So I'm really hoping at some point it'll give me some lovely flowers. It is also, compared to my other cacti and succulents, probably I would say the fastest growing. It is so speedy. I've had mine for about, I want to say about a year now, and when I first got it, it was only just kind of reaching the bottom of the pot, and I would say now it's probably getting to be about 50-60 centimetres, and they are capable of growing well over a metre tall. So I'm hoping at some point it might go all the way down to the floor. But yeah, it's a very weird, very wonderful plant, but it brings me a lot of joy and I absolutely love it. And this next one is the Hoya Tangamu, and this is one that I really love weird Hoyas anyway. I find them really kind of like, I don't know, freaky and cool, and I just think they're awesome. But the thing I love about this one is that you can see all of the beautiful dark veination, which can be quite unusual in Hoyas, and I just think it's a really cool plant, and it's one that I feel very, very, very lucky to own. Obviously, it's not doing a huge amount for me at the moment. It is fully rooted, and I've recently potted it up in soil, and it seems happy so far, but as of yet, no new growth, but I will, as always, keep you updated. But it's one that in the time that I've had it has required pretty much no care at all. I've got it in my cabinet there, and again, it's an epiphytic plant, similar to the one I just spoke about, so it absorbs a lot of its nutrients from the humidity in the air. I haven't needed to water it at all in the last couple of weeks, but I can see there's still some moisture in the cup, so I'm just kind of letting it be for now, and I'm so excited for when it starts to produce some new growth, because if that leaf is anything to go off, I think the new growth is going to be absolutely insane. It's just also so different to any other Hoya in my collection. I love how it's also got those little kind of splashy bits there on the leaves. They're so subtle and so unusual, and I think it's great. And this one is a very recent addition to my collection that I got from my friend Emma, who is good growing on YouTube. It is a Monstera escalator, and I love the bizarreness of this plant. I think it's just so stunning. It's very similar to the Monstera adansonii, but obviously its fenestrations they tend to be a lot bigger. This one actually has got secondary fenestration there as well. And in nature, the fenestrations naturally occur, as they do in lots of plants, to allow sunlight to pass through, to be able to ensure that the entire plant is able to receive light. And also then if there's wind and rain and stuff like that, then again, the plant's going to be less susceptible to breakage because it can pass through the holes. So it's a very clever plant, and one that, as I say, I've wanted for absolutely ages, and I am so excited to see it grow. I know these ones have the potential to get absolutely huge, and as you can see, its leaves already are a fair size. It is just such a strange looking plant, and I know it probably wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, but I personally adore it, and I feel very, very, very lucky to have it. And this one's still actually in the prop box. I haven't got around to potting it up yet, so I will get it out and show you. I might need to put some clips in fact, because I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see it, but this is a Paeonia pulchra, which is commonly known as the rainbow vine, and it's just such an unusual plant. It's got those beautiful, I mean, I literally just said it, but beautiful rainbowy colours underneath the leaves as well. If I can pull it up and show you, it's got those beautiful, beautiful pink veins, and it's one that you really don't see a lot in the UK, and I don't think that is necessarily because the plant is very, very rare. I just know that it can be quite hard. It can be quite hard to keep in conditions that don't have very high heat and very high humidity. So I'm slightly nervous about when I do take it out of the propagation box. It's native to Southeast Asia, so I'm just gonna have to try my best to mimic its natural conditions as much as I possibly can. So I'm thinking when I do pot it up, it will probably start off as one of my cabinet plants, because as I always say, that's got really high heat, really high humidity, perfect conditions for this plant. And it is most commonly, from what I've researched, grown as a trailing plant, but I just pop mine into the prop box as it is, and as you can see, it's rooted all the way along there. So I'm actually thinking that I might try and get it climbing at some point. I know maybe that's not the conventional way of doing it, but its aerial roots are absolutely crazy, and I think it would look really beautiful going up a plank or a pole or something like that. So I will get around to doing it soon. I just I'm a little bit scared of when I take it out of its current environment, because it is growing so beautifully at the moment. You obviously can't really tell on camera either, but its leaves are also a lot more succulent than you might think. Like, I think because they look very, very delicate and almost kind of, I don't know, almost like peperomia, begonia-y, but they are really kind of not quite as waxy as Hoya leaves, but I would maybe put them on par with like Antherium clarinervium or something like that. They are a lot more dense than you might expect from just looking at that plant. But yeah, as I say, I will be getting that on a plank or a pole and potting it up soon. I'm going to give it a little bit more time until it kind of outgrows the propagation box I've got it in, and then I will be doing some things to it. But it is a lovely weird plant, and if you can get a hold of it, then I would highly recommend it. And another weird plant that might just be one of my favourites, I'm not sure, I've actually got a few of my favourites here, but this is a Hoya Sarawak, or I'm pretty sure it's a Hoya Sarawak. I have a feeling it might be an SP Sarawak or a latifolia from what some of you have said, but it's just incredible. It's the kind of plant that almost takes my breath away when I look at it, because it just does not look real. Like, if you saw that as a fake plant, you wouldn't question it. You'd just assume it was something man-made, because it just, I don't know, I mean, just look at it. It's like the definition of weird plant. It's so cool. In the time that I've had this Hoya, although it hasn't actually produced any new foliage, it has bloomed for me quite a few times, and oh my goodness, it's got the most beautiful bloom. I put a picture on Instagram, I'll pop that picture in so that you can see it, but it's just such a gorgeous, vibrant pink bloom that again is very different to any of my other Hoyas. It also smells absolutely amazing, but I'm just very intrigued when this plant does start to grow for me, how it will continue to grow, because obviously these leaves were very well established when I received the cutting, and it has been chopped at the top there. So I'm guessing, I kind of feel like that there might be, you can see a new growth point. That's where it flowered from, and I did actually decide to chop the bloom back just to kind of try and get some more energy into the rest of the plant and hope that it might give me some new growth, but so far, no luck. It is, from my experience so far, a very slow growing Hoya, but one that I do absolutely adore. I would say out of all of them, it's probably the most statement plant in my collection. It's also been so easy to care for. It's required very little water. I mean, I only water this one probably every kind of 3-4 weeks or something like that. I know that might sound ridiculous, but although it's got a very healthy root system and the growth itself looks healthy, it's not one that requires a lot of water, so long as the humidity levels are fairly high in your house. But yeah, it's another great one. I know I'm saying they're all great as usual. It's another great one, and I love it and would highly recommend it. And this one is definitely another one of my favorites. This is the Antherium SP Lemon. And when you see SP before a plant, it basically just means that the exact species hasn't been named yet. So, I mean, actually I should have said this with the last one, the Hoya Sarawak, when I said I wasn't sure if it was a true Sarawak or if it was a latifolia or an SP or anything like that. That is why you can often see so much variation within species, particularly with Hoyas. So yes, I should have said that. But yeah, this Antherium is, I mean, totally different to any other Antherium in my collection. And I feel like, I know I've said this before, but I feel like the camera never does it justice. It's got such beautiful, robust, shiny leaves that are kind of, they've got abs, like they are just so otherworldly and beautiful. And I love the shade of green as well. It's almost kind of got a bluey tinge to it, and I love bluey plants. I think they're absolutely beautiful. And as you can tell as well, it is a vining anthurium, and I don't currently own any other vining anthuriums, but this one, I recently got it on a moss pole, and as you can see just there, that's an aerial root there, but they are starting to go into the pole, form bonds there, which hopefully should equal some lovely, mature, healthy growth as the plant grows. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that. But also, compared to a lot of my other anthuriums, it does seem to be a very, very, very fast grower. So when I first got this plant about 2 months ago now, it only had one leaf, and I did very sadly lose the original leaf because I had some fungal issues with the plant. But in the time that I've had it, it's given me 3 leaves, and that top leaf there, the newest one, that one literally only started unfurling the other day. So it's been very, very, very fast. It's another cabinet plant at the moment. I know it loves high humidity. I know it enjoys warmer temperatures. So it's doing really, really well in there. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to extend that moss pole quite soon because of how fast it is. But at the moment, I wanted to try and keep the pole at a height that I could still keep it in my cabinet because it's clearly appreciating those conditions and growing at a really good rate. I also think I haven't actually chopped and propagated this plant yet myself, but I mean, considering the aerial roots on there, I do think it would be a fairly straightforward plant to be able to chop and propagate. So maybe further down the line, once it's become a little bit more well established, I might consider doing that. The thought of that right now makes me a bit angsty because I don't want anything to harm this plant, but further down the line, maybe I will be able to bring myself to do it. And this next one's one that I've shown you several times recently because I totally love it. This might even be my favourite plant in my collection currently. I think it's just wonderful. It is the Philodendron code 69686, and I was doing some digging into how it got its name because obviously it's a very unusual name for a plant, and apparently it actually got its name from its accession number at, I think it was Missouri Botanical Gardens, because everybody was mistaking this plant for a Jopii, a Philodendron Jopii, and they do have a very similar structure, but if you kind of put them side by side, the thing that I think kind of distinguishes the Philodendron code 69686, oh my God, what a tongue twister, from the Jopii is the fact that its leaves tend to just have a much softer shape to them. Like, I absolutely adore the Jopii, but it tends to be a little bit harsher, particularly towards the point of the leaf. I'll pop a picture in of the Jopii so you can kind of see the comparison, but I just love the growth structure of this plant. I think its leaves are so incredibly unusual. The length of them is just stunning. Its lobing is just something that, I don't know, it almost looks like bunny's ears. It's just so gorgeous. And this one as well is a ridiculously fast grower. I'm trying to remember how many leaves it actually had when I first got it, but it can't have been more than about 3 or 4. And in the time that I've had it, it's given me so much new growth. And especially at the moment, and also considering that we are kind of coming out of growing season, it's giving me a new leaf every couple of weeks, which is just absolutely blowing my mind. This is another one that I have also only very recently got on a moss pole, and I'm really hoping that that's going to help kind of provide it with some micronutrients and some lovely, gorgeous big growth. But even the time that it hasn't been on a pole, it's been maturing very quickly. Like, if you look at the size of the leaves from down there to where it's at now, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's a very, very strange, very unusual plant, but one that I feel so fortunate to own, and it genuinely brings me so much joy. It's one that I check on pretty much every day and see if there are any updates with. I would like to say I'm vigilant with all of my plant care, but this is one that is kind of like top of my list right now. So yeah, it's great. And next on my list is another weird Hoya, but this is, I would say, potentially the weirdest Hoya in my collection. This is a Hoya AngelatoRed, and I've said this before when I've spoken about this plant, but I didn't actually pick this plant out for myself. It was very kindly sent to me by Arid Market, and it's definitely not one that I would have looked at and chosen had I had the choice. But in the time that I've had it, I have just absolutely fallen in love with it. I don't know what it is about it. It's so unusual. It's so splashy. Like, I think when I first got this plant, I kind of assumed that perhaps the splashiness of the leaves was damage or something like that, but every single new leaf it's produced has had that on it, and it's almost, I mean, the splashiness is almost kind of purpley. I don't know if you can really tell, and the backs of the leaves are this gorgeous, gorgeous red colour. And I know I always say as well, I'm not particularly a fan of colourful plants for myself. I don't usually go for colourful plants, but I feel like this is just kind of a nice a nice maroony kind of, not too in your face kind of colour that I really love. And also with this plant, I thought that it was quite predictable in its growth structure until very recently. So all of the new growth it had given me was kind of quite condensed and bushy and just kind of growing upwards, as you can see there. But it has just started to tendril, and that's a little new leaf just coming there. And I'm kind of wondering how on earth I'm going to trellis this plant, because obviously it's not kind of maybe your standard vining Hoya structure that you might be able to easily trellis. So I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to go about that, but I just think it's such a beautifully weird and unconventional plant. As I say, this might have been the one that actually kind of got me into weird plants more. So I'm forever grateful to this plant, and I love it very much. And I've got quite a lot of very unusual Alocasias in my collection, and it came down to quite a few for this video because I was torn and I was trying to be decisive, but I decided to go with the Alocasia Jacqueline because it's such an unusual, weird plant. It's supposedly a natural mutation of, I think it's the Alocasia Porte, something like that. Its leaves are just so cool and unusual. And they are also, and I might need to put some clips in because I don't think it's going to show up like this, but they're also really hairy. The whole plant is literally covered in these really fine furry hairs, and they're not soft as such, but they're just kind of like bristly would be the way to kind of describe them if you had to. But I just love how the new growth comes in so kind of limey green, and that obviously, again, beautiful dark veination. And then as the leaves mature, it kind of goes to more of a solid dark green. And then it's got these gorgeous pinky stems as well, which are very similar to the Zebrina. They're kind of stripy and speckled and just really unusual. These plants can also grow to be absolutely huge. Mine's very small in comparison at the moment. I also haven't had it very long. So I'm really hoping that at some point it gets to be massive, because imagine that leaf 10 times bigger. That would be what I want in my house, and I think that would just make me incredibly happy. So yeah, as I say, if I had to just pick one weird Alocasia currently, I think that would be it. And this last one doesn't actually look that unusual at the moment. It just looks like your kind of standard Epipremnum pinnatum, but it is an Epipremnum Skeleton Key. And again, the Skeleton Key is a natural mutation of the Epipremnum pinnatum. Because its leaves haven't fully matured yet, they're just looking kind of just long and fairly standard. You can see they kind of start to change shape a little bit up here, but I will put a clip in of what it looks like when it's formed into those beautiful Skeleton Key leaves, because it is just, I mean, like so crazy weird, so unusual, so unique, and I think it looks absolutely amazing. I'm so excited for when this plant finally starts to do it for me, because in order for them to produce that beautiful kind of iconic Skeleton Key look, they do need to have not only a very good root system on them, but also usually be quite well established on their pole. And this one, as you can you see if I can turn it? If not, I'll put a clip in. But you can see that one's got a roots coming out the back there, and the aerial roots are doing well. And I was kind of hoping that by the time it reached the top of its pole, it would have done a little bit more for me. But I have taken some cuttings from it fairly recently. So I am really hoping at some point soon I'm going to be able to get a plant with those beautiful Skeleton Key leaves. But it's one that I'm just really excited about. I'm really excited to see how it transforms for me. I was going to say as well, even in the time that I've chopped it, you can see at the bottom there, the auxiliary buds have popped and it is starting to give me some kind of fuller growth. So even if this section of plant never produces the Skeleton Key shape, I'm hoping that it should still be a really lovely plant, and then hopefully I will also have a more keyed version as well. But yeah, those are all the ones for this video. But as I say, I do have a lot of others that I almost included. So if you would like a part 2 to this video, do let me know in the comments down below and I will absolutely make it. But I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.